Question 1. The investigation demonstrates that a batch of ingredients used in the hot pot broth was found to be contaminated with a substance that poses a potential health risk. The restaurant manager, upon learning of this, immediately instructs staff to cease using the affected ingredients and to isolate the remaining stock. The manager also initiates a review of the supplier's quality control records and the internal receiving procedures for that specific ingredient. Which of the following actions best reflects a compliant and professional response to this situation? Option A. Blame the kitchen staff responsible for preparing the broth for not noticing the contamination and implement additional training solely focused on their individual vigilance. Option B. Immediately discard all potentially affected broth and ingredients and conduct a thorough review of supplier vetting and internal receiving protocols to identify and rectify any systemic weaknesses. Option C. Continue serving the hot pot using unaffected ingredients while only addressing the contaminated batch internally without any external communication or supplier review. Option D. Inform customers that a minor ingredient issue occurred but assure them that all food is safe, and wait for any customer complaints before taking further action. Correct answer is B. Immediately discard all potentially affected broth and ingredients and conduct a thorough review of supplier vetting and internal receiving protocols to identify and rectify any systemic weaknesses. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing operational efficiency with strict adherence to regulatory requirements concerning food safety and hygiene. The pressure to serve customers quickly, hallmark of the hot pot experience, can inadvertently lead to shortcuts that compromise these standards. Careful judgment is required to ensure that customer satisfaction does not come at the expense of public health and legal compliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes immediate corrective action and thorough investigation, aligning with the core principles of regulatory compliance and proactive risk management. By isolating the affected product and initiating a detailed review of procedures, Hai Dai Lao demonstrates a commitment to identifying the root cause of the issue and preventing recurrence. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining customer trust and avoiding potential legal repercussions or reputational damage. It reflects a culture of accountability and continuous improvement, which are essential for any food service establishment operating within a regulated environment. An incorrect approach that involves downplaying the incident and only addressing it if a customer complains fails to meet regulatory obligations. Food safety regulations typically mandate proactive reporting and immediate action upon discovery of potential hazards, regardless of customer complaints. This approach demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for public health, which can lead to severe penalties, including fines, business closure, and legal action. Another incorrect approach, which is to simply discard the affected batch without investigating the cause, is also professionally unacceptable. While it addresses the immediate symptom, it fails to prevent future occurrences. Regulatory frameworks emphasize identifying and rectifying the root cause of food safety breaches. Without this investigation, the underlying systemic issue, whether it be staff training, equipment malfunction, or supplier issues, remains unaddressed, increasing the likelihood of repeat incidents. This approach is reactive rather than preventative and falls short of best practice in food safety management. A third incorrect approach, which is to blame a specific employee without a thorough investigation, is ethically and procedurally flawed. While individual accountability is important, a comprehensive review must consider all contributing factors, including training, supervision, and environmental conditions. Singling out an employee without due process can lead to unfair disciplinary actions and does not address potential systemic weaknesses. This approach undermines a fair and transparent work environment and fails to achieve the objective of robust food safety compliance. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with immediate containment and reporting of any suspected food safety issue. This should be followed by a thorough, objective investigation to determine the root cause, involving all relevant personnel and procedures. Based on the findings, corrective and preventative actions should be implemented, with a focus on training, process improvement, and enhanced monitoring. Regular audits and reviews should be conducted to ensure the effectiveness of these measures and to foster a culture of continuous improvement in food safety and regulatory compliance. Question 2. Upon reviewing the operational guidelines for Hai Dai Lao Hot Pot An employee is approached by a customer who wishes to leave a personal handbag at the counter while they dine, as they find the designated locker facility inconvenient. The employee is aware that the restaurant has a strict policy requiring all personal belongings to be stored in the provided lockers for security and space management reasons. How should the employee best handle this situation? Option A. Allow the customer to place their handbag at their table, ensuring they keep an eye on it. Option B. Ignore the customer's request and continue with other assigned duties. Option C. Accept the customer's handbag and place it behind the counter for safekeeping. Option D. Politely explain the restaurant's policy regarding the storage of personal items and guide the customer to the designated locker facility. The correct answer is D. Politely explain the restaurant's policy regarding the storage of personal items and guide the customer to the designated locker facility. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an employee to navigate a situation where a customer's request, while seemingly innocuous, could potentially lead to a breach of internal policy and, by extension, regulatory compliance. The challenge lies in balancing customer service with adherence to established procedures designed to maintain operational integrity and prevent potential risks. A hasty or overly accommodating response could have unintended consequences, necessitating careful judgment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves politely but firmly explaining the established policy regarding personal item storage. This demonstrates best professional practice by prioritizing adherence to High-Dai-Lao's internal guidelines, which are implicitly designed to align with broader regulatory expectations for workplace safety and security. By directing the customer to the designated locker facility, the employee upholds the company's operational framework, ensures fair treatment for all customers, and mitigates any potential liability or disruption that could arise from deviating from policy. This approach is ethically sound as it treats all customers equally and maintains a professional boundary. Incorrect approaches analysis. Accepting the customer's bag and placing it behind the counter without following policy represents a failure to adhere to internal operational procedures. This could be interpreted as a breach of security protocols, potentially exposing the company to risks if the bag were lost, stolen, or contained prohibited items. It also sets a precedent that could lead to inconsistent application of rules and customer dissatisfaction if similar requests are denied later. Allowing the customer to place the bag at their table, even if supervised, bypasses the designated secure storage system. This creates an uncontrolled environment for personal belongings, increasing the risk of theft or accidental damage, and potentially violating workplace safety regulations if the bag obstructs pathways or creates a tripping hazard. It also undermines the purpose of having a secure storage solution. Ignoring the customer's request and continuing with other tasks is a failure in customer service and professional conduct. While it avoids a policy breach, it neglects the customer's needs and can lead to negative customer experiences and damage the restaurant's reputation. It demonstrates a lack of attentiveness and a disregard for customer satisfaction, which, while not a direct regulatory violation in this instance, is a critical aspect of operational success and ethical business practice. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the underlying policy and its purpose. They should then assess the customer's request against this policy, considering potential risks and benefits of compliance or deviation. The decision-making process should prioritize adherence to established procedures, as these are typically in place to ensure safety, security, and fairness. When a request conflicts with policy, the professional should communicate the policy clearly and politely to the customer, offering alternative solutions that align with company guidelines. This approach balances customer service with regulatory and ethical obligations. Question 3. The performance metrics show a consistent increase in average customer wait times for seating over the past 2 weeks. What is the most appropriate initial step to address this trend? Option A. Assume the increase is a temporary fluctuation and monitor the metrics for another month. Option B. Increase the number of front-of-house staff by 20% without further investigation. Option C. Conduct a detailed analysis of factors contributing to the increased wait times, such as peak hour staffing, order complexity, and kitchen throughput. Option D. Immediately implement a policy to expedite table turnover by limiting customer dining time. The correct answer is C. Conduct a detailed analysis of factors contributing to the increased wait times, such as peak hour staffing, order complexity, and kitchen throughput. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in operational risk management where a key performance indicator, KPI, shows a deviation from the expected standard. The professional challenge lies in accurately identifying the root cause of this deviation and implementing an appropriate response, balancing efficiency with compliance and customer satisfaction. A hasty or misdirected response could lead to wasted resources, customer dissatisfaction, or even regulatory noncompliance if the underlying issue is systemic. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic investigation to understand the underlying reasons for the increased wait times. This aligns with best practices in risk assessment and operational management, which emphasize data-driven decision-making and root cause analysis. By gathering more information about the specific factors contributing to the longer wait times, e.g., staffing levels, order complexity, kitchen efficiency, peak hours, the management can identify the true source of the problem. This allows for targeted interventions that are more likely to be effective and sustainable, thereby mitigating the operational risk associated with customer service delays. This proactive and analytical approach is crucial for maintaining service quality and operational integrity, which are implicitly expected under any operational framework governing a business like Hai Dai Lao. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to immediately implement a blanket policy of rushing service without understanding the cause. This could lead to errors in order preparation, reduced food quality, and a decline in the overall dining experience, potentially alienating customers and damaging the brand's reputation. Ethically, it fails to uphold the commitment to quality service. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the metric as an anomaly without further investigation. This ignores potential underlying issues that could escalate and cause more significant problems later, such as systemic inefficiencies or staff training gaps. This approach represents a failure in due diligence and proactive risk management, potentially leading to a gradual erosion of service standards. A third incorrect approach might be to solely focus on increasing staff numbers without analyzing workflow or efficiency. While more staff might seem like a solution, it could lead to increased labor costs, without addressing the core issue if the problem lies in inefficient processes or bottlenecks in the kitchen. This is an inefficient use of resources and does not represent a strategic risk mitigation. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first acknowledging the data and then initiating a structured investigation. This involves defining the problem clearly, gathering relevant data, analyzing the data to identify root causes, developing potential solutions, implementing the chosen solution, and then monitoring the results. This iterative process ensures that interventions are effective and that risks are managed proactively and systematically. Question 4. Examination of the data shows that Hai Dai Lao Hot Pot is considering onboarding a new supplier for a key ingredient. This supplier offers a significantly lower price than current vendors, but has a limited track record with larger corporations. What is the most prudent risk assessment approach to ensure operational continuity and food safety? Option A. Initiate a trial period with the new supplier and only address any potential issues if they arise during regular operations. Option B. Rely on verbal assurances from the supplier regarding their quality and safety standards and proceed with a small initial order. Option C. Immediately accept the supplier's offer due to the substantial cost savings, assuming their lower price reflects efficient operations. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive due diligence process including site visits, quality control checks, and verification of their food safety certifications and compliance history. Correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive due diligence process including site visits, quality control checks, and verification of their food safety certifications and compliance history. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the assessment of potential risks associated with a new supplier without relying on extensive historical data or established relationships. The decision maker must balance the need for efficiency and cost-effectiveness with the imperative to maintain operational integrity and customer satisfaction, all while adhering to Hai Dai Lao's internal risk management policies and any relevant food safety regulations. The absence of a long-standing relationship with the new supplier means that their reliability, quality control, and adherence to standards are largely unproven from Hai Dai Lao's perspective. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and thorough evaluation of potential risks before full integration. This involves a multifaceted assessment that includes verifying the supplier's credentials, understanding their production processes, and conducting initial quality checks. This aligns with a proactive risk management strategy, which is a cornerstone of operational excellence and regulatory compliance in the food service industry. By taking these steps, Hai Dai Lao can mitigate potential disruptions, ensure food safety, and protect its brand reputation, thereby fulfilling its ethical and regulatory obligations to customers and stakeholders. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the lowest price fails to consider the significant risks of substandard quality, potential supply chain disruption, or non-compliance with food safety standards. This could lead to product recalls, customer illness, and severe damage to Hai Dai Lao's reputation, representing a failure to uphold due diligence and a disregard for consumer welfare. Another incorrect approach that relies entirely on informal assurances from the supplier without independent verification ignores the fundamental principle of risk assessment, which demands objective evidence and due diligence. This approach is vulnerable to misrepresentation and a lack of accountability, potentially leading to unforeseen issues. An approach that delays the risk assessment until after a problem arises is reactive rather than proactive, demonstrating a failure in risk management planning and potentially exposing the business to significant financial and reputational damage, as well as regulatory penalties. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with identifying potential risks, followed by assessing their likelihood and impact. This assessment should then inform the selection of appropriate mitigation strategies, such as the due diligence steps outlined in the correct approach. Continuous monitoring and review are also crucial to adapt to changing circumstances and ensure ongoing compliance and operational resilience. Question 5. Performance analysis shows a slight but consistent increase in customer wait times during peak hours and a minor uptick in reported minor food temperature deviations. What is the most appropriate initial step to address these trends? Option A. Instruct kitchen staff to disregard minor temperature deviations as they are not critical issues, focusing only on the wait times. Option B. Increase staffing levels across all shifts without investigating the root causes of the performance issues. Option C. Immediately implement a new, more complex ordering system to speed up service, assuming the wait times are solely due to order processing. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to identify potential causes for increased wait times and temperature deviations, and evaluate existing control measures. Correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to identify potential causes for increased wait times and temperature deviations, and evaluate existing control measures. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge because it requires the manager to balance operational efficiency with potential risks that could impact customer experience and brand reputation. The performance analysis suggests a data-driven approach, but the interpretation of that data and the subsequent action must be grounded in risk management principles relevant to a food service environment. The core challenge lies in identifying and mitigating risks without unduly disrupting service or alienating staff. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic risk assessment process. This means identifying potential hazards, e.g., equipment malfunction, ingredient spoilage, staff fatigue leading to errors, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and then developing appropriate control measures. This aligns with best practices in food safety and operational management, which are implicitly governed by regulations concerning public health and consumer protection. By proactively addressing potential issues, the manager demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to maintaining high standards, thereby protecting the business from reputational damage and potential regulatory scrutiny. This approach prioritizes prevention and mitigation, which is a cornerstone of effective risk management. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to ignore the performance analysis entirely, assuming current operations are sufficient. This fails to acknowledge the dynamic nature of business risks and neglects the responsibility to proactively manage potential issues. It could lead to unforeseen problems that negatively impact customer satisfaction and potentially violate health and safety standards, resulting in regulatory penalties or loss of customer trust. Another incorrect approach would be to implement drastic, unverified changes based solely on the initial performance data without a thorough risk assessment. This could lead to unnecessary operational disruptions, increased costs, and potentially introduce new, unforeseen risks. It demonstrates a lack of structured problem solving and a failure to apply a reasoned, evidence-based approach to risk management. A third incorrect approach might be to focus solely on the most visible or easily quantifiable aspects of the performance analysis, overlooking less obvious but potentially more significant risks. This narrow focus can lead to a false sense of security while critical vulnerabilities remain unaddressed, potentially exposing the business to greater harm. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the context and the implications of the performance analysis. The next step is to engage in a structured risk assessment. This involves brainstorming potential risks, assessing their severity and probability, and then prioritizing them. Based on this assessment, appropriate mitigation strategies should be developed and implemented. Continuous monitoring and review of these strategies are also crucial to ensure their effectiveness and adapt to changing circumstances. This systematic and proactive approach ensures that decisions are informed, justifiable, and aligned with the organization's commitment to safety, quality, and regulatory compliance. Question 6. The monitoring system demonstrates a brief, intermittent fluctuation in the temperature of a refrigerated storage unit below the recommended safe holding temperature for a period of approximately 15 minutes. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action? Option A. Conduct an immediate investigation to determine the cause of the fluctuation. Assess the actual temperature exposure of the affected ingredients, and consult internal food safety protocols for further steps. Option B. Immediately halt all operations and inform the highest level of management about the temperature anomaly. Option C. Immediately discard all ingredients stored in that unit, regardless of their specific location or the duration of the temperature deviation. Option D. Log the temperature fluctuation and continue normal operations, assuming the deviation was minor and unlikely to cause harm. Correct answer is A. Conduct an immediate investigation to determine the cause of the fluctuation, assess the actual temperature exposure of the affected ingredients, and consult internal food safety protocols for further steps. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the assessment of potential risks to food safety and customer well-being within a high-volume, fast-paced environment like high-dye-low hot pot. The monitoring system has identified an anomaly, but the immediate implications for operational procedures and regulatory compliance are not immediately clear. Careful judgment is required to determine the most appropriate course of action without causing undue disruption or compromising safety standards. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and evidence-based response to a potential risk. By initiating a thorough investigation to understand the root cause of the temperature fluctuation, the team is adhering to the principles of proactive risk management and due diligence. This aligns with regulatory expectations for food businesses to maintain appropriate temperature controls to prevent the growth of harmful bacteria, thereby safeguarding public health. This approach demonstrates a commitment to operational integrity and compliance with food safety regulations, ensuring that any corrective actions are targeted and effective. An incorrect approach that involves immediately discarding all potentially affected ingredients without a proper assessment fails to consider the economic impact and the principle of proportionality. While caution is important, an indiscriminate disposal could lead to unnecessary waste and financial loss, and may not be justified if the deviation was minor and transient. This could be seen as a failure to apply sound risk management principles and could be challenged under operational efficiency guidelines. Another incorrect approach that involves ignoring the anomaly because it is a minor deviation overlooks the potential for cumulative risks or the possibility that a seemingly minor issue could be indicative of a larger systemic problem. Food safety regulations often require reporting or investigation of even minor deviations that could impact safety. This approach demonstrates a lack of vigilance and a failure to adhere to the spirit of preventative food safety measures. A further incorrect approach that involves immediately escalating the issue to senior management without any initial assessment or attempt to understand the situation is inefficient and can lead to unnecessary alarm. While transparency is important, a preliminary evaluation allows for a more informed and targeted escalation, demonstrating competence and problem-solving skills. This approach might be seen as a failure to exercise professional judgment and initiative. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, gather all available data related to the anomaly. Second, assess the immediate potential impact on food safety and customer health. Third, consult relevant operational procedures and regulatory guidelines. Fourth, determine the most appropriate immediate action, which may range from further monitoring to corrective action or escalation. And finally, document all findings and actions taken. This systematic process ensures that decisions are informed, justifiable, and aligned with both operational efficiency and regulatory compliance. Question 7. Analysis of the potential risks associated with onboarding a new supplier for a key ingredient in Hai Dai Lao's signature hot pot broth. Considering the supplier's proposal offers a significantly lower cost, but has a less established track record compared to current vendors. Which of the following approaches best mitigates potential negative impacts on product quality, food safety, and brand reputation? Option A. Conduct a thorough due diligence process including site visits, quality control audits, sample testing, and financial stability checks of the new supplier, alongside a phased introduction of their ingredient. Option B. Rely solely on the supplier's existing certifications and online reviews to validate their capabilities and product standards. Option C. Accept the supplier's proposal immediately due to the substantial cost savings, assuming their lower price reflects greater efficiency rather than compromised quality. Option D. Assign the responsibility of evaluating and selecting the new supplier to the most junior member of the procurement team to foster their development. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough due diligence process including site visits, quality control audits, sample testing, and financial stability checks of the new supplier, alongside a phased introduction of their ingredient. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the assessment of potential risks associated with a new supplier for a critical component of Hai Dai Lao's hot pot base. The challenge lies in balancing the need for efficiency and cost-effectiveness with the imperative to maintain product quality, safety, and regulatory compliance. A hasty decision without thorough due diligence could lead to significant reputational damage, financial losses due to product recalls or supply chain disruptions, and potential legal repercussions if food safety standards are compromised. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and comprehensive risk assessment process. This involves identifying potential hazards, e.g., quality inconsistencies, contamination, ethical sourcing issues, financial instability of the supplier, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and developing appropriate mitigation strategies. This aligns with general principles of good business practice, and within the context of a food service establishment like Hai Dai Lao, implicitly adheres to food safety regulations and quality control standards that would be expected by any governing body overseeing food businesses. While specific regulations for a Hai Dai Lao hot pot hiring assessment test are not provided, the underlying principle of ensuring supplier reliability and product integrity is universally applicable and ethically sound. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the lowest price fails to consider the potential for compromised quality or safety, which could lead to regulatory violations related to food standards and consumer protection. This approach prioritizes short-term cost savings over long-term business sustainability and ethical responsibility. Another incorrect approach that relies solely on the supplier's reputation without independent verification overlooks the possibility of recent changes in the supplier's operations or a decline in their quality control measures. This can lead to a false sense of security and expose Hai Dai Lao to unforeseen risks. A third incorrect approach that delegates the entire decision-making process to a junior staff member without adequate oversight or clear guidelines demonstrates a failure in management responsibility and a lack of commitment to robust risk management. This can result in inconsistent decision-making and an increased likelihood of overlooking critical risks. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured approach to risk assessment. This includes 1. Defining the scope of the assessment. What specific risks are we evaluating? 2. Identifying potential risks. Brainstorm all possible negative outcomes. 3. Analyzing risks. Determine the likelihood and impact of each identified risk. 4. Evaluating risks. Prioritize risks based on their severity. 5. Treating risks. Develop strategies to mitigate, transfer, avoid, or accept risks. 6. Monitoring and reviewing risks. continuously assess the effectiveness of risk treatments and identify new risks. This systematic process ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with the organization's objectives and ethical obligations. Question 8. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a new potential supplier for key hot pot ingredients offers a significant reduction in procurement expenses. However, this supplier has a less established track record compared to Hai Dai Lao's current vendors. What is the most responsible and compliant approach to integrating this new supplier into Hai Dai Lao's operations? Option A. Immediately switch to the new supplier to capitalize on the cost savings, assuming their claims of quality are accurate. Option B. Rely entirely on the new supplier's self-reported data regarding their food safety and quality control measures. Option C. Implement a superficial check of the new supplier's facilities and documentation to confirm basic compliance. Option D. Conduct a thorough risk assessment of the new supplier, including an audit of their food safety practices, traceability systems, and certification, before making a decision. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough risk assessment of the new supplier, including an audit of their food safety practices, traceability systems, and certifications, before making a decision. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge because it requires balancing potential cost savings with the risk of compromising food safety and customer trust. Hai Dai Lao, as a reputable hot pot chain, has a brand image built on quality and hygiene. Implementing a new, unproven supplier without rigorous vetting could lead to significant reputational damage and potential legal liabilities if foodborne illnesses occur. The pressure to reduce costs is a common business challenge, but it must not override fundamental safety and compliance obligations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough risk assessment of the new supplier. This aligns with general food safety regulations and best practices, which mandate due diligence in selecting and monitoring suppliers. A comprehensive risk assessment would involve evaluating the supplier's food safety certifications, production processes, traceability systems, and historical compliance records. This proactive approach ensures that any potential risks are identified and mitigated before they can impact the business or its customers, thereby upholding Hai Dai Lao's commitment to quality and safety and adhering to the spirit of regulatory frameworks designed to protect public health. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to immediately switch to the new supplier based solely on the cost-benefit analysis, without any further investigation. This fails to acknowledge the inherent risks associated with food supply chains and directly contravenes the principle of due diligence in supplier management. It could lead to violations of food safety laws that hold businesses responsible for the quality and safety of ingredients they use, regardless of the source. Ethically, it demonstrates a disregard for customer well-being. Another incorrect approach would be to implement a superficial check, such as a brief site visit without a detailed audit of their food safety protocols. While some effort is made, it is insufficient to identify potential systemic issues. This approach risks overlooking critical control points in the supplier's operations, leaving Hai Dai Lao vulnerable to undetected hazards. It represents a failure to conduct a robust risk assessment, potentially violating regulations that require comprehensive supplier evaluation. A third incorrect approach would be to rely solely on the new supplier's self-reported data without independent verification. While transparency is valued, self-reporting can be biased or incomplete. Without independent verification, Hai Dai Lao cannot be certain of the supplier's actual compliance and safety standards, exposing the business to significant risks and potentially violating regulatory requirements for supplier oversight. Professional reasoning. Professionals in the food industry must adopt a risk-based approach to all operational decisions, especially those involving suppliers. This involves a systematic process of identifying, assessing, and controlling risks. When considering a new supplier, the decision-making process should involve 1. Initial screening based on available information, certifications, reputation. 2. A detailed risk assessment including on-site audits and verification of critical control points. 3. A cost-benefit analysis that explicitly incorporates the costs of potential risks, e.g., recall, legal fees, reputational damage, alongside the projected savings. 4. A phased implementation if the supplier is approved, with ongoing monitoring. This structured approach ensures that business objectives are pursued responsibly and in compliance with all relevant regulations and ethical standards. Question 9. The assessment process reveals an opportunity to introduce a novel hot pot broth base using a unique blend of exotic spices. Before proceeding with a full rollout to all Hai Dai Lao hot pot branches, what is the most prudent and professionally responsible next step to ensure operational integrity and customer safety? Option A. Rely on the head chef's extensive experience to confirm the safety and appeal of the new broth base, proceeding with a wider rollout if initial feedback is positive. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment, including ingredient sourcing verification, allergen cross-contamination potential, food safety handling procedures, and potential customer reactions, documenting all findings and mitigation plans. Option C. Immediately approve the new broth base for a limited trial in a few select branches to gauge customer response and operational feasibility. Option D. Prioritize the marketing and promotional aspects of the new broth base, assuming that any potential issues can be addressed reactively once it is introduced to the market. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment, including ingredient sourcing verification, allergen cross-contamination potential, food safety handling procedures, and potential customer reactions, documenting all findings and mitigation plans. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge because it requires balancing operational efficiency with the potential for unforeseen risks that could impact customer experience and brand reputation. The rapid growth of Hai Dai Lao hot pot necessitates a proactive approach to risk management, ensuring that new initiatives are thoroughly vetted before implementation. The pressure to innovate and expand quickly can sometimes lead to overlooking critical risk assessment steps. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented risk assessment process that identifies potential hazards, analyzes their likelihood and impact, and proposes mitigation strategies. This aligns with best professional practices in operational management and customer service, ensuring that new menu items are safe, compliant with food safety regulations, e.g., local food handling laws, ingredient sourcing standards, and do not negatively affect the dining experience. A thorough risk assessment demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to customer well-being and operational integrity. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach would be to proceed with the new menu item without any formal risk assessment, relying solely on the chef's experience. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure, as it bypasses established food safety protocols and potentially exposes the business and its customers to risks such as foodborne illnesses, allergic reactions, or non-compliance with ingredient labeling laws. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for customer safety. Another incorrect approach would be to conduct a superficial assessment that only considers the immediate cost implications of the new ingredients, ignoring potential operational or safety risks. This is professionally unacceptable because it prioritizes short-term financial gains over long-term sustainability and customer trust. It fails to address potential regulatory breaches related to food handling, storage, or allergen management, which could lead to severe penalties and reputational damage. A third incorrect approach would be to delegate the risk assessment solely to the kitchen staff, without involving management or quality control personnel. While kitchen staff have operational knowledge, a comprehensive risk assessment requires a broader perspective that includes management oversight, understanding of regulatory requirements, and consideration of customer feedback mechanisms. This siloed approach can lead to incomplete assessments and missed risks. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured decision-making process for introducing new initiatives. This involves 1. Defining the scope of the initiative. 2. Identifying all potential risks across operational, safety, regulatory, and customer experience domains. 3. Evaluating the likelihood and impact of each identified risk. 4. Developing and documenting mitigation strategies. 5. Obtaining necessary approvals and ensuring compliance with all relevant regulations. 6. Implementing and monitoring the initiative with a feedback loop for continuous improvement. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, responsible, and aligned with organizational values and legal obligations. Question 10. Research into the most effective method for managing a sudden surge in customer demand at Hai Dai Lao during peak hours, specifically when the standard seating allocation process is experiencing delays, to ensure both operational efficiency and customer satisfaction. Option A. Instruct staff to expedite the seating process by overlooking standard check-in procedures for a portion of incoming customers to reduce the perceived wait time. Option B. Prioritize seating for customers who appear to be more influential or who have previously been frequent patrons, regardless of their position in the queue. Option C. Advise customers with longer wait times to leave and return later, without offering any alternative solutions or compensation for their inconvenience. Option D. Implement a temporary, clearly communicated policy to offer a small complimentary item or a slight discount on the next visit to customers experiencing significant wait times beyond a predetermined threshold, while continuing to manage the queue fairly. The correct answer is D. Implement a temporary, clearly communicated policy to offer a small complimentary item or a slight discount on the next visit to customers experiencing significant wait times beyond a predetermined threshold, while continuing to manage the queue fairly. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for operational efficiency with the long-term implications of customer perception and potential regulatory scrutiny. The core of the challenge lies in making a judgment call that upholds Hai Dai Lao's commitment to service excellence while navigating the practicalities of a busy service environment. Careful consideration is needed to ensure that any deviation from standard practice does not compromise the customer experience or create an impression of unfairness. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes customer satisfaction and fairness, which are foundational to Hai Dai Lao's brand reputation and operational success. By proactively addressing the situation with a solution that benefits the customer without creating undue burden or perceived favoritism, the team demonstrates a commitment to service excellence. This aligns with the implicit ethical guidelines of hospitality, which emphasize guest well-being and satisfaction. Furthermore, this approach avoids any actions that could be misconstrued as discriminatory or in violation of service standards, thereby mitigating potential reputational damage and ensuring consistent service delivery. An incorrect approach that involves prioritizing speed of service for some customers over others, without a clear, objective, and universally applied criterion, would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to perceptions of favoritism or discrimination, eroding customer trust and potentially violating ethical principles of equal treatment. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the situation and allowing the backlog to grow, would demonstrate a lack of proactive problem-solving and a failure to uphold service standards, negatively impacting the overall customer experience and operational flow. A third incorrect approach, such as implementing a rigid, communicated policy that inconveniences customers, would demonstrate poor communication and a disregard for customer needs, undermining the brand's core values. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the core values and service standards of the organization. This involves assessing the immediate situation, identifying potential impacts on customers and operations, and then brainstorming solutions that align with these values. The chosen solution should be evaluated for its fairness, practicality, and potential consequences. Open communication with the team and, where appropriate with customers, is crucial to ensure transparency and manage expectations. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are not only efficient, but also ethically sound and aligned with the organization's long-term goals. Question 11. Benchmark analysis indicates that during peak operating hours, there is a noticeable increase in customer wait times for table service and a slight decrease in the perceived attentiveness of staff. As a restaurant manager, what is the most effective approach to address this trend while upholding Hai Dai Lao's reputation for exceptional customer service? Option A. Accept that a slight dip in service quality is an unavoidable consequence of peak demand and focus solely on managing table turnover rates. Option B. Implement targeted staff training focused on efficient service delivery and proactive customer engagement techniques specifically for peak hours, alongside a system for gathering immediate customer feedback on service during these times. Option C. Instruct staff to prioritize speed of service above all else during peak hours, even if it means reducing the duration of individual customer interactions. Option D. Introduce a standardized, time-limited script for all customer interactions during peak hours to ensure consistent, albeit brief, service. The correct answer is B. Implement targeted staff training focused on efficient service delivery and proactive customer engagement techniques specifically for peak hours, alongside a system for gathering immediate customer feedback on service during these times. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing operational efficiency with adherence to high Dai Lao's established customer service standards. The pressure to maintain service speed during peak hours can lead to shortcuts that compromise the quality of interaction and the personalized experience high Dai Lao is known for. The core difficulty lies in recognizing when efficiency gains negatively impact the brand's core value proposition and potentially violate implicit customer expectations, which, while not always codified in explicit regulations, are crucial for maintaining customer loyalty and brand reputation within the competitive hot pot market. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach demonstrates a commitment to upholding high Dai Lao's brand promise of attentive and personalized service, even during busy periods. This aligns with best practices in customer relationship management and service delivery. By proactively identifying potential service gaps and implementing targeted training, the manager is not only addressing immediate operational pressures, but also investing in long-term customer satisfaction and brand loyalty. This proactive stance prevents potential customer complaints and preserves the positive brand image, which is a critical intangible asset. This approach implicitly adheres to any internal guidelines or service-level agreements that high Dai Lao may have regarding customer experience, even if not explicitly stated as a formal regulation. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing speed over personalized interaction. This could lead to customers feeling rushed or ignored, potentially resulting in negative reviews or a decline in repeat business. Ethically, it breaches the implicit contract of attentive service that customers expect from a premium brand like High Dai Lao. It also fails to uphold the company's commitment to customer satisfaction, which is a cornerstone of its business model. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss customer feedback about service quality as an unavoidable consequence of peak hours. This demonstrates a lack of accountability and a failure to recognize that customer perception is paramount. It ignores the potential for service improvements and risks alienating a significant portion of the customer base. This approach neglects the fundamental principle of continuous improvement in service delivery and brand management. A third incorrect approach might be to implement overly rigid, standardized scripts for all customer interaction, regardless of the situation. While this might aim for consistency, it can stifle genuine connection and make the service feel impersonal and robotic. This undermines the unique, friendly, and attentive service culture that High Dai Lao cultivates, potentially leading to customer dissatisfaction and a perception of declining service quality. Professional reasoning. Professionals in a service-oriented environment like High Dai Lao should adopt a framework that prioritizes understanding and upholding the brand's core values. This involves actively seeking and analyzing customer feedback, not just during quiet periods, but especially during peak times when service pressures are highest. The decision-making process should involve evaluating the impact of operational decisions on customer experience and brand reputation. When faced with efficiency pressures, the professional should ask, does this change enhance or detract from the customer's overall experience and our brand promise? The focus should always be on finding solutions that maintain or improve service quality while addressing operational needs, rather than sacrificing one for the other. This requires a proactive, customer-centric mindset and a commitment to continuous improvement. Question 12. Risk assessment procedures indicate that the hiring process for High Dai Lao servers needs to be both efficient and effective in identifying suitable candidates. Considering the fast-paced nature of the restaurant and the importance of customer service, which of the following approaches to assessing potential server candidates best aligns with best professional practices for a hiring assessment? Option A. Developing a practical, hands-on simulation that mirrors typical server duties, such as taking an order, handling a mock customer request, and presenting a dish, with performance evaluated against clear, predefined criteria. Option B. Conducting brief, informal interviews where the hiring manager relies on their personal judgment and intuition to gauge a candidate's personality and perceived fit with the team. Option C. Implementing a lengthy, multi-stage assessment process involving personality questionnaires, cognitive ability tests, and situational judgment scenarios typically used for evaluating candidates for managerial or technical roles. Option D. Prioritizing rapid hiring by using a very short screening questionnaire that focuses primarily on availability and willingness to work, with minimal assessment of actual job-related skills. The correct answer is A. Developing a practical hands-on simulation that mirrors typical server duties, such as taking an order, handling a mock customer request, and presenting a dish, with performance evaluated against clear, predefined criteria. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing operational efficiency with the ethical imperative of fair and transparent hiring practices. The pressure to fill positions quickly, especially in a fast-paced environment like Hai Dai Lao, can lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of the assessment process. The core difficulty lies in ensuring that the chosen assessment method accurately reflects a candidate's suitability for the role without introducing bias or creating an unfair advantage for some applicants. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a standardized, objective assessment that directly relates to the core competencies required for a server role at Hai Dai Lao. This involves designing tasks that simulate actual job duties, such as order taking, food presentation, and customer interaction, and evaluating performance against predefined criteria. This method aligns with best practices in human resources by ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on the same basis, promoting fairness and reducing the likelihood of discriminatory outcomes. It also provides a reliable predictor of job performance, leading to better hiring decisions and reduced staff turnover. This approach is ethically sound as it treats all applicants with respect and provides an equal opportunity to demonstrate their capabilities. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves relying solely on informal interviews and subjective impressions. This is professionally unacceptable because it is highly susceptible to unconscious bias, personal preferences, and gut feelings, rather than objective evidence of a candidate's skills. It fails to provide a consistent or reliable measure of suitability and can lead to discriminatory hiring practices, violating ethical principles of fairness and equal opportunity. Another incorrect approach is to use a complex, multi-stage assessment designed for highly specialized roles, such as management or technical positions. This is inappropriate for a server role because it is overly burdensome, time-consuming, and may not accurately measure the specific skills needed for frontline customer service. It can deter qualified candidates who are put off by the excessive rigor and does not represent an efficient or effective use of resources, failing to meet the operational needs of the business. A third incorrect approach is to prioritize speed of hiring above all else by using a very brief, superficial assessment that only touches on basic availability and willingness to work. This is professionally unsound because it neglects the critical need to assess a candidate's actual ability to perform the job duties effectively. It increases the risk of hiring unsuitable candidates, leading to poor customer service, increased training costs, and higher staff turnover, ultimately undermining the business's operational goals and reputation. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach hiring assessments by first clearly defining the essential skills and competencies for the role. This involves understanding the day-to-day tasks and responsibilities. Next, they should select or design assessment methods that directly measure these competencies in an objective and standardized manner. The chosen methods should be practical, efficient, and fair to all candidates. Regular review and validation of assessment tools are crucial to ensure their continued effectiveness and compliance with ethical and professional standards. The decision-making process should always prioritize a balance between operational needs and the ethical obligation to conduct fair and equitable hiring. Question 13. Which approach would be most aligned with Hai Dai Lao's commitment to exceptional customer service while maintaining operational efficiency and fairness to all patrons? Option A. Empowering staff to make informed, personalized service enhancements within established operational guidelines, prioritizing customer satisfaction without compromising efficiency or fairness. Option B. Immediately escalating all non-standard customer requests to management for a decision, without allowing frontline staff any discretion. Option C. Strictly adhering to all standard operating procedures for every customer, regardless of individual circumstances or potential for minor service improvements. Option D. Granting every special request made by a customer without evaluating its impact on other patrons or operational feasibility. Correct answer is A. Empowering staff to make informed, personalized service enhancements within established operational guidelines, prioritizing customer satisfaction without compromising efficiency or fairness. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in customer service environments like high die low hot pot, balancing the desire to provide an exceptional customer experience with the need to maintain operational efficiency and adhere to established service protocols. The challenge lies in discerning when a deviation from standard procedure is a genuine act of superior service that enhances customer satisfaction and brand loyalty, versus when it becomes an unsustainable or potentially disruptive practice that could negatively impact other customers or staff. The pressure to go above and beyond can sometimes lead to decisions that, while well-intentioned, may not be in the best long-term interest of the business or its overall service delivery. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a nuanced understanding of customer needs and a commitment to delivering service within the established framework of high die, LAO's operational guidelines and brand promise. This means empowering staff to make informed decisions that enhance the customer experience without compromising efficiency, fairness to other patrons, or the integrity of the service model. It prioritizes proactive problem-solving and personalized attention that aligns with the restaurant's reputation for excellent service, ensuring that such actions are consistent, scalable, and contribute positively to the overall dining experience for all guests. This approach fosters a culture of empowered service delivery that is both customer-centric and operationally sound. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to consistently grant every special request without considering its impact on other customers or operational feasibility. This can lead to delays for other diners, create an uneven service experience, and set unsustainable expectations. It fails to uphold the principle of equitable service delivery and constrain resources. Another incorrect approach is to rigidly adhere to all standard operating procedures, even when a minor, reasonable deviation could significantly improve a customer's experience and resolve a minor inconvenience. This demonstrates a lack of flexibility and customer empathy, potentially leading to dissatisfaction and a perception of unresponsiveness, which is contrary to high die LAO's brand image. A third incorrect approach is to delegate all non-standard requests to management without providing clear guidelines or empowering frontline staff to make judgment calls. This creates bottlenecks, delays service, and can lead to a perception of inefficiency and a lack of trust in the staff's ability to handle customer needs effectively. It hinders the development of a proactive and responsive service culture. Professional reasoning. Professionals in customer-facing roles should adopt a decision-making process that involves 1. Actively listening to and understanding the customer's request and underlying need. 2. Assessing the feasibility and potential impact of fulfilling the request against operational constraints, fairness to other customers, and established service standards. 3. Exercising sound judgment to determine if a deviation is warranted and beneficial. 4. Communicating clearly with the customer about what can and cannot be done. 5. Seeking guidance from supervisors or established protocols when uncertainty exists. This framework ensures that service delivery is both exceptional and sustainable. Question 14. The review process indicates that while the team leader has a strong intuitive sense for identifying potential, their recent promotion recommendation for a junior associate deviates from the standardized performance evaluation framework. Specifically, the team leader cited the associate's infectious energy and positive vibe as primary drivers for the promotion, rather than concrete achievements against key performance indicators or demonstrated mastery of core competencies, as outlined in the high die LAO hot pot hiring assessment test guidelines. This approach raises concerns about the consistency and objectivity of the evaluation process. Option A. The team leader's judgment regarding the associate's infectious energy and positive vibe is sufficient justification for the promotion, as these qualities are implicitly understood to contribute to a positive work environment and customer experience at high die LAO hot pot. Option B. The team leader's reliance on the associate's infectious energy and positive vibe is a valid, albeit informal, method of assessing cultural fit and potential, which should be given significant weight in promotion decisions, even if it means a less rigorous adherence to documented performance metrics. Option C. The team leader should have based the promotion recommendation on a comprehensive review of the associate's performance against the established key performance indicators and competencies detailed in the High Die Lao Hot Pot hiring assessment test guidelines, ensuring that subjective observations like energy and vibe are supported by objective evidence of contribution and skill development. Option D. The team leader should have immediately escalated the situation to senior management, requesting a special exemption from the standard evaluation process due to the unique qualities of the associate, without further internal assessment. The correct answer is C. The team leader should have based the promotion recommendation on a comprehensive review of the associate's performance against the established key performance indicators and competencies detailed in the High Die Lao Hot Pot hiring assessment test guidelines, ensuring that subjective observations like energy and vibe are supported by objective evidence of contribution and skill development. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing operational efficiency with the ethical imperative of fair and consistent application of company policies. The team leader's reliance on personal judgment, while seemingly efficient in the short term, risks introducing bias and undermining the established best practice guidelines for performance evaluation. Core challenge lies in ensuring that subjective assessments are grounded in objective criteria and that deviations from policy are justified and documented, rather than being ad hoc decisions. Correct approach analysis. Adhering strictly to the documented best practice guidelines for performance evaluation, which likely include specific criteria for assessing employee contributions and a standardized feedback process, represents best professional practice. This approach ensures fairness, consistency, and transparency in how employees are evaluated. It aligns with the ethical principle of treating all employees equitably and provides a clear framework for development and recognition, preventing arbitrary decisions and potential claims of discrimination. This method also supports the company's commitment to a structured and objective hiring and performance management process. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing the team leader's immediate perception of an employee's enthusiasm over the established evaluation metrics. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it introduces subjective bias into a process that should be objective. It deviates from best practices by not relying on documented performance indicators, potentially leading to unfair assessments and undermining the credibility of the evaluation system. This approach risks overlooking crucial performance aspects that are not immediately apparent as enthusiasm. Another incorrect approach is to bypass the formal feedback session and simply inform the employee of their promotion verbally, without providing specific reasons tied to the evaluation criteria. This is a failure in professional practice and potentially a regulatory breach if the company's guidelines mandate documented feedback. It lacks transparency and deprives the employee of constructive insights that could aid their development. Ethically, it fails to provide a clear and justifiable basis for the promotion, which can lead to resentment and distrust. A third incorrect approach involves making a promotion decision based on the employee's perceived likability and how well they fit into the team's social dynamic, rather than their demonstrated skills and contributions against the defined performance standards. This is a significant ethical and regulatory failure. It introduces personal bias and social favoritism, which are antithetical to fair employment practices. Such a decision can lead to a perception of unfairness, damage team morale, and potentially violate anti-discrimination laws if it disadvantages certain groups of employees. It completely disregards the established best practices for merit-based evaluation. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach performance evaluations and promotion decisions by first thoroughly understanding and adhering to the company's established best practice guidelines and any relevant regulatory requirements. This involves focusing on objective performance metrics, documented evidence of contributions, and a standardized feedback process. When faced with situations where an employee's performance might seem exceptional or require special consideration, the decision-making process should involve consulting these guidelines, seeking input from HR or a superior if necessary, and ensuring that any deviation is well documented and justifiable based on the established criteria. The emphasis should always be on fairness, transparency, and meritocracy. Question 15. The analysis reveals that a customer at High Die Lao Hot Pot has expressed dissatisfaction with a particular dish, claiming it was not prepared to their liking. The immediate pressure is to resolve the situation quickly to maintain service flow and customer satisfaction. Which of the following approaches best exemplifies professional best practice in handling this customer feedback? Option A. Apologize profusely and offer a complimentary meal voucher for their next visit, regardless of the validity of the complaint. Option B. Politely explain to the customer that the dish is prepared according to standard recipes and that their preference might differ. Option C. Listen attentively to the customer's specific concerns, discreetly verify the dish's preparation, and then offer a sincere apology and a suitable resolution, such as replacing the dish or offering a discount on their next visit. Option D. Immediately offer a full refund for the entire meal, without further inquiry, to appease the customer. The correct answer is D. Immediately offer a full refund for the entire meal without further inquiry to appease the customer. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in a fast-paced service environment like high-die-low hot pot. The core difficulty lies in balancing the immediate need to address a customer complaint with the established operational procedures and the potential for misinterpreting the situation. A rushed or emotionally driven response could escalate the issue, damage customer relations, and potentially violate internal service standards or even implied contractual obligations regarding service quality. The pressure to maintain high customer satisfaction ratings adds another layer of complexity, tempting a hasty resolution that might not be fully justified or sustainable. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes thorough investigation and empathetic communication before offering a resolution. This aligns with best practices in customer service and operational management, which emphasize understanding the root cause of a problem. By actively listening to the customer's concerns, gathering all relevant facts, e.g., checking the dish, speaking with the kitchen staff, and then offering a sincere apology and a reasonable solution, like a complimentary dish or discount, the employee demonstrates professionalism. This approach respects the customer's experience, upholds the restaurant's commitment to quality, and allows for a fair and appropriate resolution, minimizing the risk of further dissatisfaction or reputational damage. It also provides valuable feedback for operational improvement. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately offering a full refund without understanding the specifics of the complaint. This is professionally unacceptable because it bypasses the investigation process, potentially rewarding unfounded complaints and setting a precedent for future customers to exploit. It fails to uphold the restaurant's operational integrity and could lead to financial losses. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the customer's complaint outright, attributing it to personal preference or misunderstanding. This is a significant ethical and professional failure. It demonstrates a lack of empathy, disrespects the customer's experience, and directly contradicts the principles of good customer service. Such an approach can lead to severe reputational damage and loss of customer loyalty. A third incorrect approach is to offer a solution that is disproportionately generous, such as a full meal voucher for a minor issue. While seemingly customer-centric, this can be professionally unsound as it may not be a sustainable practice and could be perceived as an overreaction, potentially leading to future customers expecting similar excessive compensation for less severe issues. It also fails to address the underlying operational issue, if one exists. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured problem-solving approach. First, actively listen and empathize with the customer. Second, gather all necessary facts through discreet investigation. Third, assess the situation based on established service standards and the gathered information. Fourth, communicate the findings and proposed resolution clearly and respectfully. Finally, document the incident and resolution for future reference and potential process improvement. This systematic method ensures fairness, upholds professional standards, and contributes to long-term customer satisfaction and operational efficiency. Question 16. Performance analysis shows a slight increase in average table turnover time during peak hours, leading to longer wait times for incoming customers. Management is considering several strategies to address this. Which approach is most likely to lead to sustainable improvement without negatively impacting the unique customer experience High-Dai-Lao is known for? Option A. Implementing a new digital ordering system that allows customers to browse the menu and place orders before being seated, thereby expediting the initial ordering process once they reach their table. Option B. Focusing solely on increasing the speed of food delivery from the kitchen to the table, without addressing other potential delays in the service flow. Option C. Encouraging staff to be more assertive in clearing tables immediately after customers finish their meals, even if they appear to be lingering. Option D. Reducing the variety of soup bases and side dishes offered to simplify preparation and speed up cooking times. The correct answer is A. Implementing a new digital ordering system that allows customers to browse the menu and place orders before being seated, thereby expediting the initial ordering process once they reach their table. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing operational efficiency with adherence to established service standards, which are implicitly governed by the implicit expectations of customer experience at high Dai Lao. The core of the challenge lies in identifying and implementing process improvements that genuinely enhance customer satisfaction and operational flow without compromising the unique service elements that define the brand. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between superficial changes and those that address root causes of inefficiency or customer inconvenience. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it involves a systematic, data-informed, and customer-centric methodology. By focusing on identifying bottlenecks through direct observation and customer feedback, and then piloting solutions before full implementation, it aligns with principles of continuous improvement and risk management. This method ensures that changes are validated, minimize disruption, and are likely to yield positive, sustainable results, thereby upholding the brand's reputation for excellent service. This aligns with the implicit expectation within the hospitality industry to deliver consistent, high-quality customer experiences, which is a cornerstone of successful business operations and customer loyalty. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing staff interaction time without understanding the customer's perception of that interaction, fails to recognize the value of personalized service in the high Dai Lao model. This could lead to a perception of rushed or impersonal service, negatively impacting customer satisfaction, and potentially violating the implicit promise of a welcoming and attentive dining experience. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of order fulfillment over accuracy or completeness of the order introduces errors and dissatisfaction, directly undermining the efficiency gains and potentially leading to customer complaints and a damaged reputation. A third incorrect approach that implements changes based on anecdotal evidence or personal opinion, without objective data or customer validation, risks making decisions that are not aligned with actual operational needs or customer preferences, leading to wasted resources and potential negative consequences. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the problem or opportunity for improvement. This involves gathering objective data, including operational metrics and customer feedback. Next, potential solutions should be brainstormed and evaluated based on their feasibility, impact, and alignment with organizational goals and brand values. Piloting promising solutions in a controlled environment allows for testing and refinement before widespread adoption. Finally, continuous monitoring and evaluation are crucial to ensure that implemented changes are achieving the desired outcomes and to identify further opportunities for optimization. Question 17. The audit findings indicate a recent incident where a batch of fresh produce intended for hot pot bases was accidentally dropped onto the kitchen floor during preparation. The team leader, under pressure to maintain service speed during a busy lunch rush, instructed staff to quickly pick up the dropped produce, rinse it under the tap, and proceed with its use, while only wiping down the immediate floor area. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action to address this food safety breach? Option A. Immediately discard all dropped produce, thoroughly clean and sanitize the entire preparation area and all equipment used for that batch, and then prepare a new batch of ingredients. Option B. Discard only the visibly soiled pieces of the dropped produce and continue with the rest after a quick wipe of the preparation surface. Option C. Rinse the dropped produce thoroughly under running water and continue with its preparation, as the rinsing process should remove most contaminants. Option D. Continue with the preparation using the dropped produce after a brief visual inspection, assuming the floor was relatively clean. The correct answer is A. Immediately discard all dropped produce, thoroughly clean and sanitize the entire preparation area and all equipment used for that batch, and then prepare a new batch of ingredients. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining operational efficiency and adhering to strict food safety protocols. The pressure to serve customers quickly, especially during peak hours at a popular establishment like Hai Dai Lao, can create an environment where shortcuts might seem tempting. However, food safety is paramount and non-negotiable, directly impacting public health and the restaurant's reputation. The challenge lies in balancing customer experience with the absolute necessity of rigorous hygiene and preparation standards. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach, which involves immediate cessation of the affected food preparation and thorough sanitization of the area and equipment, represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the potential contamination and prevents further risk to customers. This aligns with fundamental food safety regulations and ethical obligations to protect public health. Specifically, it adheres to principles of hazard analysis and critical control points, HACP, by identifying a critical control point, food preparation, where a hazard, potential contamination, has occurred and implementing immediate corrective action to mitigate the risk. This proactive and thorough response demonstrates a commitment to compliance and customer well-being. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to simply discard the visibly contaminated ingredients and continue with the rest of the preparation without a full sanitization of the workspace and equipment. This is a regulatory failure because it does not address the potential for cross-contamination from surfaces or utensils that may have come into contact with the contaminated item. It violates basic hygiene standards and could lead to the spread of pathogens, posing a significant health risk and contravening food safety laws. Ethically, it prioritizes speed over safety. Another incorrect approach would be to only clean the immediate area where the contamination occurred, without sanitizing all potentially affected equipment or utensils used in that preparation batch. This is a failure to implement comprehensive corrective actions as required by food safety protocols. It overlooks the possibility that other items or surfaces may have been exposed, leading to a continued risk of contamination. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a superficial understanding of effective contamination control, which is a direct violation of food safety guidelines. A third incorrect approach would be to continue using the same preparation area and equipment after a cursory wipe-down, assuming the contamination was minor. This is a severe regulatory and ethical failure. It disregards the invisible nature of many contaminants and the potential for microscopic spread. Such an action directly contravenes food safety legislation that mandates thorough cleaning and sanitization to eliminate biological, chemical, and physical hazards. It demonstrates a reckless disregard for customer safety and the restaurant's legal and ethical responsibilities. Professional reasoning. Professionals in the food service industry must adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes safety and compliance above all else. When an issue like potential contamination arises, the immediate steps should be: 1. Isolate the affected product and area. 2. Assess the extent of potential contamination. 3. Implement immediate and thorough corrective actions, including cleaning and sanitization as per established protocols. 4. Document the incident and the actions taken. 5. Review procedures to prevent recurrence. This systematic approach ensures that all potential risks are addressed, regulatory requirements are met, and the highest ethical standards are upheld. Question 18. During the evaluation of assessment results for a potential new team member at Hai Dai Lao Hot Pot, a hiring manager notices that one candidate, who has been informally praised by a senior staff member for their outgoing personality, has scored lower than expected on a key practical skills component of the assessment. The manager is under pressure to fill the position quickly. Which of the following approaches best reflects professional and ethical conduct in this situation? Option A. The hiring manager should immediately reject the candidate due to the lower score on the practical skills component, prioritizing the assessment results above all other factors, including potential for development or other positive attributes. Option B. The hiring manager should proceed with recommending the candidate for hire, focusing on their strong personality traits, and assuming the lower score on the practical skills component is an anomaly that can be addressed through on-the-job training, given the urgency to fill the role. Option C. The hiring manager should disregard the lower score on the practical skills component, attributing it to potential bias in the assessment itself, and proceed with recommending the candidate based on the positive informal feedback received. Option D. The hiring manager should conduct a follow-up interview specifically to probe the candidate's understanding of the practical skills assessed, cross-referencing their responses with the assessment results and seeking clarification on any discrepancies before making a final recommendation. The correct answer is B. The hiring manager should proceed with recommending the candidate for hire, focusing on their strong personality traits and assuming the lower score on the practical skills component is an anomaly that can be addressed through on-the-job training, given the urgency to fill the role. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing operational efficiency with the ethical imperative of fair and transparent hiring practices. The pressure to fill positions quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of the assessment process. A manager might be tempted to prioritize speed over thoroughness, potentially overlooking crucial aspects of candidate evaluation or misinterpreting assessment results to fit a desired outcome. This requires careful judgment to ensure that the assessment process, even under pressure, adheres to established standards and legal requirements. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the assessment data, cross-referencing it with the established criteria for the role. This ensures that the evaluation is objective and based on demonstrable skills and competencies, rather than subjective impressions or external pressures. Adhering to the hot pot hiring assessment tests guidelines means ensuring that all candidates are assessed consistently and fairly, and that decisions are justifiable based on the evidence gathered during the assessment. This upholds the principle of meritocracy and avoids discriminatory practices, aligning with the spirit of fair employment. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves prioritizing candidates who appear to have a strong cultural fit based on superficial observations during the assessment, without a thorough evaluation of their actual job-related skills. This is ethically problematic as it can lead to unconscious bias and discrimination, potentially excluding qualified candidates who may not fit a preconceived notion of what a good fit looks like. It fails to adhere to the assessment's objective to measure competence. Another incorrect approach is to overlook discrepancies in assessment results for a candidate who is otherwise perceived as a strong performer. This can involve rationalizing poor performance in one area due to perceived strengths in another, or simply ignoring data that contradicts a desired outcome. This is a failure of due diligence and can lead to hiring individuals who are not truly qualified, ultimately impacting team performance and potentially leading to future issues. It undermines the validity of the assessment process. A third incorrect approach is to rush the final decision-making process without adequate time for reflection and review of all assessment components. This can result in overlooking critical feedback or misinterpreting the overall picture of a candidate's suitability. It demonstrates a lack of professionalism and a disregard for the importance of a comprehensive evaluation, potentially leading to poor hiring decisions that are not defensible. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach hiring assessments with a commitment to objectivity and fairness. This involves understanding the assessment's objectives, adhering strictly to the established evaluation criteria, and critically analyzing all data points. When faced with pressure, it is crucial to maintain a structured approach, documenting all decisions and justifications. If there are any ambiguities or concerns, seeking clarification or a second opinion from a supervisor or HR representative is a professional and ethical step. The decision-making process should be a deliberate and evidence-based one, ensuring that the best candidate is selected based on merit and suitability for the role, in compliance with all relevant guidelines. Question 19. Compliance review shows a pattern of customer feedback, suggesting that while wait times are being managed effectively, some staff members appear to be rushing through customer interactions, leading to a perceived lack of attentiveness and personalized service, particularly during peak hours. What is the most appropriate course of action to address this implementation challenge? Option A. Implement a new policy that mandates a minimum interaction time for each customer, with immediate disciplinary action for any staff member found to be deviating from this time. Option B. Issue a general memo to all staff reminding them of the company's commitment to customer service and warning against rushing interactions, without further investigation or specific guidance. Option C. Analyze customer feedback for any instances of outright rudeness or significant service failures, and only address those specific, severe complaints, while considering the current pace of service as acceptable. Option D. Conduct targeted training sessions for all frontline staff, reinforcing the importance of attentive customer engagement and providing practical techniques for balancing efficiency with personalized service, supported by a review of operational workflows to identify potential bottlenecks contributing to rushed interactions. The correct answer is D. Conduct targeted training sessions for all frontline staff, reinforcing the importance of attentive customer engagement and providing practical techniques for balancing efficiency with personalized service, supported by a review of operational workflows to identify potential bottlenecks contributing to rushed interactions. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing operational efficiency with the integrity of customer service standards, particularly in a high-volume environment like Hai Lao. The difficulty lies in identifying and addressing potential shortcuts taken by staff that, while seemingly minor, could erode the core customer experience and potentially violate internal policies or implied service-level agreements. The pressure to maintain speed and throughput can create a conflict with the meticulous attention to detail expected in customer interactions. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and data-driven review of customer feedback and operational logs to identify specific instances where service standards might have been compromised. This allows for targeted training and reinforcement of existing policies, ensuring that staff understand the rationale behind each service protocol and its impact on customer satisfaction. This aligns with best practices in quality assurance and continuous improvement, focusing on proactive problem-solving rather than reactive disciplinary action. It upholds the brand's commitment to exceptional service by addressing root causes of deviations. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately implementing stricter, more punitive measures without a thorough investigation. This can lead to a demotivated workforce, increased staff turnover, and a perception of distrust, without necessarily resolving the underlying issues. It fails to acknowledge that service lapses can stem from a lack of understanding or inadequate training, rather than deliberate noncompliance. Ethically, it is unfair to penalize staff without due process and a clear understanding of the situation. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the feedback as isolated incidents or customer exaggeration. This demonstrates a lack of commitment to service excellence and an unwillingness to adapt or improve. It ignores the cumulative impact of small deviations on the overall customer experience and brand reputation. This approach is professionally negligent as it fails to uphold the organization's duty to provide consistent, high-quality service. A third incorrect approach is to focus solely on speed of service, assuming that faster service automatically equates to better service. While efficiency is important, it should not come at the expense of the core elements of the Hai Lao experience, such as attentiveness and personalized care. This approach risks devaluing the customer relationship and could lead to a superficial service delivery that ultimately disappoints customers. It fails to recognize that customer satisfaction is multifaceted and not solely dependent on speed. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first gathering comprehensive data, including customer feedback, staff observations, and operational metrics. This data should then be analyzed to identify patterns and root causes. Training and communication are paramount, focusing on reinforcing service standards and their importance. If necessary, performance management should be implemented, but always with a focus on development and improvement, rather than solely punitive measures. A culture of open communication and feedback is essential to address challenges proactively and maintain high service quality. Question 20. Compliance review shows that some Hai Lao staff are consistently observed to be rushing their interactions with customers, leading to a perceived decrease in attentiveness and personalization of the dining experience. What is the most appropriate next step to address this implementation challenge? Option A. Advise all staff through a general announcement that rushing is unacceptable and that they should simply slow down during peak hours. Option B. Conduct a detailed analysis of customer feedback and operational workflows to identify the root causes of rush service, and then develop targeted training and process improvements based on these findings. Option C. Accept that rush service is an unavoidable consequence of high customer volume at Hai Lao and focus only on maintaining food quality. Option D. Immediately implement a new policy with stricter time limits for each customer interaction and impose financial penalties for any staff member exceeding these limits. The correct answer is B. Conduct a detailed analysis of customer feedback and operational workflows to identify the root causes of rush service, and then develop targeted training and process improvements based on these findings. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing operational efficiency with the integrity of customer service standards, particularly in a high-volume, fast-paced environment like high-die Lao. The pressure to maintain service speed can inadvertently lead to shortcuts that compromise the quality of customer interaction and adherence to established protocols. The core challenge lies in identifying and rectifying deviations from expected service delivery without disrupting the customer experience or demoralizing staff. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and data-driven review of the observed service gaps. This means not just noting that staff are rushing, but understanding the root causes. This could involve analyzing customer feedback, observing specific service touchpoints, and cross-referencing these observations with documented service standards and training materials. By focusing on specific, observable behaviors and linking them to training deficiencies or process bottlenecks, the corrective action can be targeted and effective. This aligns with best practices in quality assurance and continuous improvement, ensuring that service standards are met consistently and ethically, fostering a culture of accountability and professional development. The emphasis is on understanding and addressing the why behind the rush service, rather than simply reprimanding. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately implement stricter performance metrics and punitive measures for any perceived rushing. This fails to address the underlying issues, potentially leading to increased staff anxiety, decreased morale, and a focus on superficial compliance rather than genuine service quality. It also risks alienating customers if the focus on speed leads to a less personal or attentive experience. Ethically, it can be seen as unfair to penalize staff without understanding the context or providing adequate support. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the observations as a minor operational quirk inherent to a busy restaurant. This neglects the importance of maintaining consistent service standards, which are crucial for customer satisfaction and brand reputation. It represents a failure in proactive management and quality control, allowing potential service failures to become normalized. This can lead to a gradual erosion of customer loyalty and a negative perception of the brand. A third incorrect approach is to conduct a superficial, one-off training session on customer service speed without any follow-up or analysis of its impact. This is unlikely to lead to lasting behavioral change and fails to address any systemic issues that might be contributing to the rush service. It is a reactive measure that lacks the depth required for effective implementation of service standards. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first gathering objective evidence. This involves observation, data collection, e.g., customer feedback, operational logs, and understanding the documented service standards. The next step is to analyze this evidence to identify root causes. Is it a training issue, a staffing problem, a process inefficiency, or a combination? Based on this analysis, a targeted intervention plan should be developed, which might include retraining, process adjustments, or resource allocation. Continuous monitoring and feedback are essential to ensure the effectiveness of the intervention and to foster a culture of ongoing improvement. This structured approach ensures that decisions are informed, fair, and aligned with both operational goals and ethical responsibilities.